Hello, and welcome to the darkest timeline.
Film podcast.
Hello and welcome to the darkest timeline. My name is Dylan.
I'm Brett.
I'm Ian. And tonight we watched a movie that misunderstood softcore pornography about plants. What? Well, I mean, yeah, he was a softcore porn director, but doesn't mean everything he does is softcore porn.
Well,
So, once upon a time, in the swamp. You can say that in a minute. We watched Swamp Thing 2. No, we watched
AKA
Return of Swamp Thing. Return of Swamp Thing.
the Return of Swamp Thing. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
No. What are you, Jim Wynorski's nephew? I will not thank you.
Yeah, I hate this movie. I really hated this movie. Gross.
And Return of Swamp Thing
What is he doing?
he's being a creep. And Return of Swamp Thing is not a good movie.
No.
Is not a good sequel to the first one, which was also not a good movie.
I was going to say thank you.
And is not a good tie-in to the TV series that it's not connected to.
True. What, Ian?
It's a bad movie. Yes.
Yes.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Right.
It's not a very good sci-fi. It's not a very good horror. It's not a very good comedy.
Yeah.
Yes, Ian? Once upon a time. Would you like to tell us the plot? In the swamp. Would you like to just tell us the plot? Ian, tell us the plot. Start it with that. Once upon a time. There you go.
Please don't go through it scene by scene.
In the swamp. In the last movie, Alec Holland was turned into Swamp Thing. In this movie, Arcane is trying to find what Dr. Arcane, who turned kind of Alec Holland into Swamp Thing, was trying to find Swamp Thing so he can become immortal, I guess. And his stepdaughter, who lived in L.A., was it L.A.?
It was L.A. No, she mentions Malibu, like she's going to... There's some doctor that does great like skincare in Malibu or something like that, and she talks about going to Sykes. Yeah.
Okay, she lives in L.A.
Yeah. Who cares?
And she decides, after talking to her plants, because she's completely insane, that she's going to go and fix up some stuff with her crazy stepfather, Dr. Arcane. So she goes there, figures out Darcane. Figures out that Dr. Arcane, a.k.a. Darcane, hashtag Darcane, is crazy, gets captured or something, or tries to run away, rescued by Swamp Thing, captured, rescued by Swamp Thing, captured, rescued by Swamp Thing. Dr. Arcane dies. The end.
Thank you for just cutting it short, because it was...
There were also children. There were also children, which were the best part of the movie.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that part. So that's the plot.
Kind of.
Just so you know, the living hell that we go through here. We watched a terrible movie. We're sitting in a room that's probably at least 15 degrees hotter inside than outside right now. We are sweating.
Welcome to L.A.
Well, yeah, outside's still so much cooler.
We can't have the AC on when we're doing the podcast.
I know, but I'm letting
too loud.
So that's the thing.
Hey, I mean, there's a fan on 20 feet away. You should be happy for that.
Oh, I'm getting a wonderful breeze as it oscillates wildly.
Actually, every once in a while, I feel a little something.
Good for you.
It has nothing to do with the wind.
I just want everybody to know this is a slight form of torture for us.
You weren't even here the last 2 weeks.
No, and I am sweating my balls off right now to this terrible movie room.
TMI, Brett. TMI.
Well. Oh, and my voice sounds terrible because I tried singing one song at karaoke as loud as I could, and mission accomplished, I guess.
What song?
It was Tom Petty's Refugee, if you must know. And I do a very hardcore version of it, and it's wonderful.
Bunch of grunting. A lot of breaking glass.
A lot of yelling.
A lot of eating gravel.
I had a sport coat on. I took that off and threw it in a bar. Don't know. I kind of found out where it was, and someone else found it for me. But Swamp Thing 2, guys.
So yeah, Return of Swamp Thing.
Oh,
Return of Swamp Thing was a campy. I don't remember the first one. I know I've seen it, but it was a campy pseudo sci-fi, mild horror. I don't know.
Piece of crap.
Yeah, garbage movie with the comedy. Okay. Yeah. So the first Swamp Thing is classified as a horror movie.
Cool.
The second Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
the one we watched, is classified as a sci-fi comedy, which I get, but I don't think it should have been done.
Which is also a very like specific category.
It is.
Like, who goes into a movie? Well, they don't even have them anymore. But who goes then to rent a movie and they say, "Excuse me, I'm looking for your sci-fi comedy section."
They exist.
Sci-fi comedy.
There's a ton of sci-fi
It's
comedy.
not a
Probably.
section.
Well, I mean, it's either within. It's probably within comedy.
Yeah.
Although this movie was probably classified like next to Swamp Thing in horror, which should just wig people out if they just got two. They're like, hey, these two. One looks slightly more horror than the other, but sure, whatever. I'll see what they're about.
The DVD case of this movie is Swamp Thing holding Heather
DVD?
Locklear.
Depending on the version, it's a slightly different.
Okay, well, the DVD case of this movie is Swamp Thing holding Heather Locklear, like,
Carrying her?
just carrying her,
Like you
and
did.
she's kind of sitting there with a big smile on her face, like, ha, looking at the camera.
Like, whoopsie.
with a word bubble.
with
No.
she has a word bubble that's saying something I can't remember.
No,
what it was.
it's that line she said after she was talking to her plants and decided to go to wherever the hell the swamp is.
What line?
It was, why can't men be more like plants?
Shut
Something
yeah.
like
the
that.
up. Are
Oh,
you
yeah.
kidding me?
That
yeah.
DVD thing is actually drawn. That's like an artist's like,
Does that mean like an actual
interpretation.
picture?
Nope.
Oh.
It's
Someone tried too hard.
a drawing of that. There are other posters that are basically the same picture, only an actual picture, and she's not even conscious. She's like,
That's awesome.
and I just did a visual motion, and they laughed at it, and y'all can't see it because this is an audio podcast.
Yeah.
So this movie, I mean, there's not a lot to like in this movie.
No.
I don't believe there is.
No.
In
There's
fact,
a few funny parts, funny scenes, like in the beginning where the beginning makes it's one of those terrible intros to a film to try to kick it off.
Well, yeah, like I said,
Did they try
once
and kick
upon
it
a
off?
time.
Yeah. Once
In
upon
the
a time,
swamp.
ellipsis in the swamp. It's
Well,
so
no,
stupid.
it's ellipsis. Next line.
Ellipsis.
A few like spaces over.
Oh, right.
Ellipsis.
Yeah.
In the swamp.
Anyways, they kick it off by like your classic rando guys walking around in camo with guns, and they're trudging through the swamp water, and I don't know why, but out of nowhere they start arguing over something, and the guy he says something like, "Hey, this was your idea. You said you want to get out of the office. You said you wanted to go do an adventure," and it's like they're carrying like AK-47s.
I think they were carrying like M16.
Oh, I'm sorry.
American-made,
Oh,
brat.
obviously, you're right. No Russian
They're
crap.
American office workers that work for the government. I think one of them
Yeah,
said they
I
work for
think
the
they said
government.
they
really?
worked for the government.
Oh, I did not catch
They're like
that.
government office workers, and they were out in the bayou with M16s, hunting for
Yeah.
moonshiners.
Hunting for moonshiners.
A couple of the creepiest moonshiners.
Well, yes, we'll
The-
get to them. We'll get to them in a second.
The rapiest.
But what the kind of a plot line is that for people?
Well, it wasn't one. They all died.
Well, no, not all of them.
One lived, but you never see him again. You hear about him. That's
right.
it.
Yeah.
do you?
Yeah. They mentioned that he came out of the swamp talking about some
Oh,
weird.
yeah,
Crazy.
they
That's where the dumbass sheriff came in. For
yeah.
the one scene that he existed
Now
in.
that
the
is
movie.
a person we should move on to next. I want a whole movie of just that guy.
Did you like that, Brett? Did you like him in this movie?
I liked him in this movie because I feel like he was so out of place. Like he was a snippet from like, oh God, what's that terrible movie that they jump in the car and they're always driving away? Dukes and Hazards.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
like he was
yeah.
cut out from like Duke.
Oh yeah,
Dukes.
you Duke boys.
Yeah. Dukes of Hazzard,
Dukes,
yeah.
because they're the Duke. There's multiple
Right.
Dukes.
His
Duke
name-
of Hazard.
Yeah, his name's not Hazard.
Duke Hazard.
Duke Hazard. Yeah, no, he felt like a snippet of a Dukes of Hazard movie.
It's like Duke Nukem's brother.
Duke Hazard. I thought he was very
Japanese
funny.
naming style, so the last name's first. It's really
Hazard, Duke. I felt like I also felt like he portrayed the character as what someone would think a racist. It's like a racist view of a Southerner. Like real stupid and just god haughty, you know, like
I'll just listen to the scientist who tells me how to do my job. Because if you hadn't said that, Dr. Arcane, that saved me 1,000 hours of police work that I don't want to do because I'm a Southern cop.
And then get one of your beautiful women to walk me to the door. You can just hear like
everything.
Someone get me a cigar.
Yeah. I need to. I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna interrupt the happy times that we're having about this movie.
Oh, okay.
To talk about the director.
Oh, that's a good segue.
Good old Jim
Wynorski.
Jimmy Wynorski.
Jimmy Wynorski. Who no one probably calls him Jimmy
Wines. Jimmy Wines.
Jimmy Wines, baby.
Good old Jimmy Wines. Jim Wynorski has an interesting directing career where he kind of switches off for the last 30 years now. He kind of switches off between doing B horror movies or B sci-fi comedies.
B horror movies. I did air quotes for all you out there, people listening to this land.
What?
I can't say TV land.
It's not a very populous land.
Also, that's just a weird thing to say nowadays.
But
nowadays is a weird thing to say nowadays.
Ian, shut up.
He goes between those kind of movies and directing softcore pornography.
Oh, yeah.
And it is one of the things...
You sounded like you know his work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it shows.
Yeah.
It shows. We've watched... Before we started actually doing a podcast of this movie night, we watched another one of his movies.
We watched two.
Did we?
Chopping Mall.
Oh,
He did Shopping Mall?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He is terrible.
That's one of his, but it's clear. It's so clear. There's this is an 80s softcore porn director doing this movie. Because he's, the costuming and the lighting and everything just seems like a cheap porn set.
Oh, yeah. And, the classic, boobied random women, low-cut tops, like you were saying.
There was
and
deep V's on everything and
deep
everybody.
V's. They were rampant with deep V.
I'm surprised that Swamp Thing didn't have a deep V.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would have liked if he had a deep V.
That would have been hilarious.
That is super weird.
And they would have earned that comedy.
That would have been comedy. Just put him in a deep
They
V.
really didn't have any actual comedy in this movie other than that.
And we watched Vampirella before. That was another comic book movie he did.
Oh, wow.
And his comic book movies are, that's
terrible.
But Vampirella was a pretty good adaptation, actually, which was the scariest part about that movie because it's garbage. That plot, the plot is ripped from the comic books, basically, or a lot of it, like her backstory, which you would think, watching that movie, this is a way off topic, but watching that Vampirella, you'd think the backstory they've left in that movie is complete bullshit,
but it is
from the
comics?
Accurate.
Wow.
It is so accurate. Space vampires.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
From the planet Draculon.
Sounds awesome, guys.
Oh, it's pretty great.
It's absolute garbage.
It's like one of Vampirella's 7 origin stories, and it's the first one.
Oh, wow. Well, that was the cool thing about the beginning of Swamp Thing was during the beginning title sequence, it's just flipped pages of the comics.
I'm going to say what I liked about this movie was some of the things that it did before Marvel did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With all the comic pages in the opening, it just became a huge staple of
most
course,
Marvel
they
films,
didn't even just pick ones with just Swamp Thing in them. They had Brett spotted the Joker in one of the pages. In one of the pages, he was wearing a Green Lantern ring.
Yeah, which I wrote down Joker. What the f***?
It's DC.
Yeah, but that was one rant I got on was I don't like mixed universe characters. I don't like when they just because that's obviously shoehorning it into a very popular character like the Joker.
Gotta sell those books.
I know, but I hate that. It feels so salesmanshipy and not
Welcome
this is
to
a good
the
story.
Entire comic book industry.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying I always hated when there was some type of a crossover or a series of mixed universe. You know what I mean?
Well, for every person who hates it, there's just one other person who goes, I'll buy it.
I'll buy those, yeah.
DC's had 3 soft reboots in the last 15 years.
DC's, I feel like they're the worst, actually. They do it more often than Marvel does. But I don't know. I don't like Marvel's either, and I think Marvel does a bad job at it.
But in this they did that. They did the comic book pages way before Marvel was doing it. And there's probably other movies that did it, but I'm just not taking them into account because I don't care.
Also, you don't remember.
And I don't care. I could look it up and probably find an answer pretty easily, but I'm not going to because I don't care. And the second thing that they did was they had a mid-credits sequence, which had those kids that we kind of mentioned earlier.
Had their friendship fall apart.
Their friendship fell apart at the very end of the movie. And I was like, now I feel good about this.
Now, if we could talk about those kids, that'd be a point of pride I'd like to get into there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I'll give a little bit of reference to these kids. It was like they were split when they were making this movie on some things. They were either going to have pornography in the movie or they were going to have kids looking at pornography in the movie. And they chose the creepier option of the two.
Which was
and decided to have kids looking at pornography in the movie.
What was the name of that one, Mag? Do you remember? Young and Sexy or something?
No, Young
like
and Easy.
Young and Easy, which is grosser that the kids were looking at a book called Young and Easy.
Well, it's grosser that it was from his dad's collection.
Oh.
Yeah.
Especially since the kid was like, oh, the old man really likes this one. I'm like, is the old man telling his son?
Yeah, that's a great point. I thought the kid's story was my favorite because I felt like they deserved their own film. Like they had so much depth in the story compared to like Heather Locklear's connection with her stepfather
And her plants.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That's something we need to get back to
we'll
again.
Definitely get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, like they were like friends but enemies.
Frenemies.
The fat ginger kid that was a Southerner was my favorite thing by far. He just had the thickest, stupidest accent.
And he was a little Michelin man.
Yeah, he was. He was like a little chubby, just bastard.
Ginger Michelin man.
Gingered Michelin man. And he had the thickest accent. He sounded like Jeff Foxworthy if he was a child. It was great.
Ginger Jeff Foxworthy.
Ginger Foxworthy. That's what they call him.
Gingeworthy?
Yeah.
That's not okay.
It sounds wrong somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Heather Locklear was f***ing crazy. She was a crazy person.
You didn't
in
even
this
talk
movie.
about both kids.
Oh, and then the other. Okay, yeah, that's right. The other kid, for some, they had like a weird. They had a weird friendship. Like they obviously lived in the same trailer park.
You've only described one.
I'll
kid.
get there. Hold on. They kind of didn't like each other, but they're kind of friends at the same time.
They're the only two kids within several miles.
That's got to be it because they lived in a weird part of Florida. I'm guessing is where we're at.
It looked abandoned.
It did, yeah. And these kids were like the poorest of the poor. So they're hanging out.
He could not possibly have been the poorest of the poor because the other kid, who you're going to describe at some point, had the sickest white Nikes ever.
Oh, not only that, his dad bought Nikon cameras with extendable lenses. So apparently he's either really into photography or stole it.
No, that was the fat kid's camera. His dad.
Well, either way, I'm just saying one of the poor kids had a lot of money.
They were super poor.
They are very poor guys. They live in Florida.
Well, no, I mean, they just happen to live in those houses, and their families are actually very rich, but they really like where they live.
It's their summer home. Yeah, it's their summer home.
Yeah. It's about getting back to nature.
That's right.
It's just that it never becomes not summer in Florida, so it's
just their home.
And then the other kid was just a really annoying friend. Like, he did not let his other friend ever feel like he was welcomed or appreciated. He always called him fat. Well, and he seemed like he was at least 2 years older.
Well, to be fair, Brad.
What?
The kid was fat.
And
the
annoying.
kid was fat.
And annoying and ginger, so he had it coming.
It's a good point. That's a good point. No, we'll give it to him.
No offense to gingers, I guess.
But I felt like those two kids needed their own film. Like, I felt like they could go on a hilarious story together, a little bit of an adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they
taking photos, looking at nudie mags.
They kind of did both of those
They did
things.
all of the things you mentioned
Yep.
in this movie.
That's true. They very much did, yeah.
Yeah.
They very much did,
Yep,
yes.
and ate a lot of food.
I guess they did. No, the fat kid ate a lot of food.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Like
I wonder,
a lot of food.
Yeah.
I wonder why he was the fat kid.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I was saying is was, what was it? Heather Locklear's crazy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. She talked to plants.
Yeah.
She named plants, and they had name tags.
And she babbled endlessly to them. Not even talked.
Not just to them. She had, they apparently retorted, and she talked back.
That's a good point. I forgot
plants.
that. She actually answered the question that she heard in her head.
No, Jeremy, or whatever the
Yeah.
hell the plant's
You're
name
not
was.
going to talk me out of it this time.
I'm going to confront my uncle. Yeah, that's right, Natasha. You tell him what for.
Oh, man, that was a terrible scene.
You know, I like to think, because that was early in the movie, right?
Yes.
That was the beginning. That was the
Very.
beginning.
No, it was right after the moonshiner.
Well, yeah.
But if you discount that moonshiner, like that, the moonshiner thing happens.
The moonshine hunting.
Yeah, the moonshine hunting
Barely.
happens. Then that scene happens.
Yeah.
And then Heather Locklear passes out into a coma, and the rest of the movie happens.
Yeah, it was. It's like she.
She had a tumor.
Yeah,
clearly.
that's what I was gonna say. It was like she had some type of medical operation was put under, and then that's what this whole movie
at
was.
some point she was living with Dr. Arcane, so we can assume that something was done to her when she was living with Dr. Arcane.
That's fair. That he was a creepy dude.
Heather Locklear was looking very good in this movie, though.
Yeah.
Well, better than more recently.
Well, yes, that's
It's been a while, I guess.
Yeah,
Since
30
the-
years
since
or
the
so.
late '80s.
Well, 27.
Let's not do
Since
the
this
math.
movie.
Just Christ.
You're dating the podcast.
I'm sorry, this movie's only a year older than me.
And I just wrote down in this note. The plot is what? What is what?
I told you the plot. She gets kidnapped, he saves her, he gets kidnapped, she saves her, whatever.
Yeah. How is that writing?
Well, the plot. The plot didn't have anything to do with Swamp Thing or the girl.
No.
Well, I guess it could technically have to do with the girl and Swamp Thing, but
Oh, just backpedal on my
Hold on, guys.
in
Hold
a,
on.
in a periphery of in the periphery, it had to do with that.
in that he needed a bit of each.
Yeah, he needed some of each of them.
Well, technically he needed all of Heather Locklear's life essence.
The plot was about Dr. Arcane trying to stop some sort of mutation that was happening to him so that he could live forever. That was the plot of the movie.
Yeah,
it was
I
about.
said. I said he wanted to become immortal.
It was about, but that was actually what was going on, not all the Swamp Thing shit. That doesn't matter. And
Ironically,
This movie
for a
is all
movie-
about him. Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, for a movie named Swamp Thing.
Return of Swamp Thing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Return of Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
There we go.
that's correct.
I also forgot to add this about the kids really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so the kids end up having the random monster break down the door and start trying to fight them, and Swamp Thing shows up, and they have a metal bar fight that just, for some reason, when the bars touch, turns to lightning,
Yeah.
which was weird.
Well, they had to put in the lightning, so then when one of them hit the gas can, it would make sense, in dumbass quotes,
Yeah.
that the gas can actually exploded once he hit it, because if lightning hits a gas can, it might explode.
Right. But what does that do? Trigger anything else that has gasoline in it surrounding the area to explode as well.
Well, yes, if gasoline sees other gasoline explode, it wants to get in on the action. It
Yeah.
feels left out.
So about, I don't know, 7 cars explode in random order. Like none of them, it just was like bam, boom, plop.
And you know what? Both of the kids kept their damn lips shut.
Well, yeah, after it happened. But the one kid was really pissed because he's like, that's my mom's car. No.
Yeah, well, all their
see?
cars died.
And there were
were destroyed.
They were killed.
There were like 8 cars there around that one house.
Yeah, I know. Right near the gas tank, too.
Well, it said, the paper said it was like some kind of place. I don't know what it was. It was
Great.
It was,
Great addition to that one, Ian. Thank you very much.
it wasn't,
Ian, everybody.
it wasn't just a house. It was a certain thing. It was like a thing.
Come on.
When you grab a thought, could you hang on to it?
Yeah.
No, I refuse.
Just think it through first, then speak.
Abject refusal on your request. Sorry.
Oh, boy. I have so many more things that I want to talk about that I
yeah.
like and
Yeah.
are terrible.
Well, okay, wait. That you like, but are terrible?
yeah.
I've got to say something that I thought was funny.
that?
We all work in a secret lab under Arcane's house.
This is exactly what I want to talk about.
Oh yeah. With the entrance of which is the Get Smart hallway.
Yeah. Yes.
Like without the doors. Like if the doors opened, it's the Get Smart hallway.
Which has one of the best theme songs, I think, in TV.
It really does.
Yeah.
The TV show, not the movie, for all you
Oh, no.
young people out there.
Yeah,
I mean, like
we're-
the-
Which is you two idiots. Yeah.
I've seen the show.
Okay.
we technically cut as millennials too.
Yeah.
So do you, Brett.
Oh, okay. I'm barely.
Yeah, you're just on the line
one-
there.
The one thing I wanted to say was the thing now this is something that bugs me in every horror movie that's got, or not horror movie.
It's not a horror movie. It's a sci-fi comedy.
I'm sorry. This
Brett.
is the thing that bugs me in every sci-fi comedy I ever watch. It is,
How many of those are?
well, plenty, guys. Plenty.
It's this and the Galaxy Quest.
Oh, I actually like that movie.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I would not call it great, but
No,
yes.
it's great. You need to get
well.
this into how like it's it's a good movie. Okay, man.
So Man, that was amazing. I wish this was a video podcast so you could see what the f*** he just did there.
There was a lot of stroke going on.
It was.
Face.
It's a small stroke face he had. I hate this like secret layer where it's like they always had it in James Bond movies, and I used to see it. I was like, oh wow, they really got a whole production going on there. And then when I got older, I started thinking, what the f***? This would never, ever happen. Where do these people sleep? Do they have families? Are they married? You know they got kids somewhere.
Or they leave by the employee entrance and go home.
Yeah, but it's like this. It's so terrible. Like
There's like the evil elevator to secretly go down. And then there's like just a revolving door over on the side that's the employee entrance.
And then they have like their little break room where someone brought Dunkin' Donuts today. And they're like, oh, thanks. Thank you so much.
And then James Bond comes in and snaps all of their necks. My wife and kids.
Yeah. I'm only taking this because I need the money. I've always hated that. Like, that's such bullshit.
Well, you literally just said you haven't always hated it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, like, since I've noticed it,
Get your
I've
shit
hated
together,
it.
Brett.
Well, you did the same
Ever
thing.
since you decided it wasn't cool, you've hated
Exactly.
it.
And then also, they never change their clothes. It's always the same outfit.
Hey,
I mean,
you don't
it's
know.
their
They
uniform.
could have multiple sets of those clothing.
So then they have a changing room and everything. Like,
Probably.
Well, they have to go home to change. We don't service all this there.
I mean,
damn it.
another small stroke there.
They've got to have at least a few. Although they wouldn't have to clean their suits as much as normal because they with the deep V and the sleeveless.
Oh, yeah.
They're not getting quite as stinky as a normal jumpsuit would be.
Oh, those deep V sleeveless jumpsuits. Do they even count as a jumpsuit
They're
anymore?
orange. They're like prison jumpsuits.
They look like they were like maybe they were like irregular jumpsuits and the sleeves were all f***ed up, so they just cut them off and they're like, here, we got these really cheap guys.
Or was hot in the swamp and they
Good
were
point.
like, ugh.
I said it was like the basement of Dr. Monroe, or what's it? Island of Dr. Monroe. What's his name? Island of Dr.
Moreau, I think.
Moreau. Yeah.
Moreau.
So I said this is like the basement of Dr. Moreau
The basement of Dr. Moreau.
because he was making all the weird half elephant face
Yeah.
people.
I was very confused about how mutating people with animal DNA would lead to immortality.
I don't know.
Although, you know, I'd like to mention.
Well, you can't. You're not
that
allowed.
It's very. I found it very interesting that Dr. Arcane is sponsored by Starfleet
What?
from Star Trek.
What? Oh, you're talking about
Yeah.
the Desponder? What is it?
Because I mean, I feel
Transporter?
like there comes
sorry.
a point when Starfleet and Star Trek needs to fund their operations to find new worlds with new aliens and shit. But there comes a point when you don't have any new aliens. You got to get them from somewhere. So they get this
Dr.
guy,
Arcane.
Dr. Arcane. They tell him, hey man, if you keep mutating people with these weird animal DNA shit, you're going to get immortality eventually. Immortality.
Immortality.
That's the kind you
you're
can get
gonna-
on the internet.
I've been hearing that Southern guy too much.
That's right.
You're gonna get immortality pretty soon, but you gotta send all your failures up to us because every time, whenever he failed in the thing, they were like, well, before it reproduces, put it in the weird room thing.
They called it the disintegrator, I think, but I don't quote me.
No.
Yeah, they didn't
it
call
might
it
have been a
anything, I don't
disintegrator.
think.
But then it shocks the beast with lightning for 85 seconds.
Forever. Forever. Just shoot him in the head.
I went with literally a whole minute.
And
but
then it uses the Star Trek effect to beam them up to the Enterprise, where they are then redistributed onto a planet where they reproduce and then are found by Starfleet to increase their ventures.
There you go. There you go. And I think it's true.
look, a previously undiscovered species. Scan that, Spock. It's human and a cockroach.
There was a half human, half cockroach in this movie. If you don't know.
Did you just love my Kirk impression?
It was okay.
The prosthetics in this movie were pretty good.
Yeah.
They were actually, yeah. And the animatronics, because that roach was like all animatronic.
Oh, yeah.
that roach was disgusting as
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like we discussed in Guyver. It was a bit wet, so it looked more real.
Yes, I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
like that theme.
It's not okay.
No,
it's
like that-
Ooh, it looks
you know
funny.
Hey, you know what? They wanted you to go, so you know what? They did well.
I guess so, but it's like, does wetness make it like more
What the hell
lifelike?
is the half elephant dude, though?
I don't know.
Because it was like an elephant face coming out of the side of his face.
Right, and the other thing that's upsetting is elephants are huge. Why is it small?
Well, no,
Well,
it's
it's
just the
just a
side.
face.
It was just a face. It was
But yeah, it had a trunk.
He was
and it wasn't
elephant.
like a full
He
trunk.
was elephant face man.
Well,
kind
it
of.
was a baby elephant.
Oh god.
I don't know. They probably don't have
He
different
was
DNA.
just turned into an elephant, so it would be quite a young elephant.
Come on.
Just in a couple of years, it's going to be a really big offset between the rest of his body and his face.
Oh, no, it won't. He was blown up with the rest of the compound.
That's true.
I did want to talk about two other mutants, which was the hipster hillbilly and Cletus, the Moonshiners. They were.
You mean the rapiest mother ever?
Oh my god! And they were so weird.
Yeah, and they were apparently way into killing things and running over dogs and stuff.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, I get it. They're bad guys. Like, don't make me
They're
depressed.
like, okay, moonshiners are all the devil, literally.
Yeah, they were the best. One guy was
Creepy.
definitely a hipster though.
Yeah, it was
he had
weird.
he had like a perfect like trucker mesh cap, like with a flat bill. He
Yeah.
had long hair kind of tucked underneath it.
He was just like, I'm going to be a moonshiner because not many people are moonshiners
Yeah,
now.
and moonshine's like really taking off, guys. Like better than craft beer right now. So definitely gonna go moonshining.
Except when it goes big, I'm going to switch back to craft beer.
Yeah, because that, right? I mean, come on. And then Cletus was just a straight up murdering rapist.
Yes. Well, technically they both were, but one was a hipster along with being a murdering rapist.
Oh, okay.
Well, he was only a murdering rapist because it wasn't very popular at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not cool to be a murdering rapist, so he really needed to get into that.
How many more times can we say murdering rapist? do you
Well,
think?
he was a murdering rapist, guys.
Well, I mean, really, they never, we must admit, they never said they were going to rape anyone. We just assumed they would because of how they looked and acted.
Yeah, they were a little rapey.
They were
singers.
100% going to murder something, but we're just 100% sure that they were going to rape it afterwards.
I believe you.
Oh, they got their hands on Heather Locklear for like 12 seconds.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure they were gonna rape her.
Yeah, it did seem like
Because
rapey hands.
They were
messed
a
up.
little bit way too excited to see a living woman.
And then Swamp Thing comes in and just fights him off, and it's over.
Swamp Thing comes in, says some sort of pun, and then
Of course.
fights them off.
And then that's where the stream of guards come in, and they shoot him in the swamp, and then explode him with a grenade. But before that, the guy says, "Turn him into guacamole."
Yeah, he does.
No, he doesn't say it. He screams
Yeah,
it.
turn him into guacamole.
Only,
Which kind of makes me think this guy is from California.
The Che Guevara looking guy.
You mean Che Guevara, Matthew Lillard hybrid?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was very
Che Lillard?
Che Lillard.
Yeah.
He was very California
Lillard.
bro.
Che Lillard.
No. You should have stopped when you were ahead.
Freedom.
Yeah, that character was
Matthew Guevara?
I'm so sad that got a chuckle out of me. God.
It just sounds like a real name.
It really just upset me that I laughed at that. That was terrible.
You're right. You're right to be upset, Brett.
I am. I
You're
feel terrible
right to be
myself.
upset.
Yeah, that character, Gunn was his name. Just Gunn. Gunn. He was the head of security.
Might have been a nickname.
He was the worst head of security ever.
Yes, he was.
Come on, guys. I'm really good at this.
We mention Matthew Lillard because at points during the movie, I just felt it would have been totally in character for him to walk off screen yelling, "Hack the planet!" Because he was basically Matthew Lillard's character from Hackers.
Right. And then
Dressed as Che Guevara.
he has a stupid scene with one of the security guards that we never needed to have.
He only has one stupid scene.
Well, he has a stupid scene with one of them where they're comparing scars. And it was like as if the writer wrote this down for another movie. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to throw it in this movie. It's going to be great, bro."
And then like these two people hate each other.
Yeah.
And then they like end up making out at the end of that scene.
Right.
And
Well, because
She literally says she's going to kill him for his job.
because scars are hot, man.
also
Yeah.
there are so many scenes in this movie, so many, that it's like this was about to be softcore pornography.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like they shot it as a softcore porno, and then they received some notes from the producers that were like, "We didn't pay for you to make a softcore porno."
See, what I think old Jimmy did was he actually went through with the softcore porn part and then just clipped those out and put it in a new softcore movie.
Well, like I said,
It was all under one budget.
They took out all the softcore porn.
Oh, and he kept that footage.
and
Well, he just watches it by his lonesome.
okay.
It's lonesome.
And they put in the kids instead.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They swapped those plots.
They
yeah,
had to
he's
make
like, less sex, more children.
That's,
That's what I want.
yeah, that's how he goes about making things kid-friendly. Just
Less
put in-
sex, more dumb
Put in
gingers.
children.
Yeah,
That'd be
more
great.
ginger
Put in a
children.
fat ginger and a black kid. It'll be great.
And I want them just
It's something to-
scattered in the movie.
Just something to laugh at and diversity. It's all good.
It was terrible. And it was just, they're like, the scenes with the children just thrown in randomly. Like, fill it in here, I guess.
It was just suddenly children scene. Oh, hey, we're doing this again. All right.
Oh, gosh.
With they were crummy kids too, because all they wanted was to get a picture of Swamp Thing so they could get money for
Yeah.
it and like leave their existence in the swamp.
Classic Florida people, I'm telling you right there.
Pieces of
Also about Gunn, his death scene sucked. The fights
Wait,
in this movie
which
were
one?
terrible. That's the okay. So he's like,
The first one was better.
well, so the lady, one of the doctor ladies says, she goes, "Oh, take that. It's napalm or something like that, or Agent Orange."
Yeah.
She's like, "Use this on Swamp Thing, it'll work." And he's like, "Oh, I've got my own toys." Then shows up in like a random tricked out Jeep Wrangler
with rockets on it.
on the top, shoots it at the house, misses, almost kills everybody in the house.
Shoots at Swamp Thing, misses,
Right.
and hits the house.
Yeah, okay, there you go. And then all Swamp Thing does is take a grenade off a guy, pull the pin out, throw it, and it explodes, and he dies. Supposedly dies.
Comes back 20 minutes later.
Yeah, charred up with a random chainsaw. I don't know where the hell he got it.
Well, I mean,
in
he
a-
was blown up near the workman's shed.
Oh,
Well,
perfect.
they live in a swamp. You're gonna need a chainsaw for
Yeah,
something.
all the
right?
time. Classic swamp
Yeah,
chainsaw.
yeah. How do you think
Classic.
how do you think they got all
Gunn.
the wood to make the house?
Oh yeah. So then the scene is.
one-
They had to
chainsaw.
cut up fish.
The other thing is, I think the budget was so poor in this movie that they couldn't even afford the gasoline to put in the chainsaw because he goes to try to start it, and Swamp Thing just already beats him, punches him, and then kills him. And it's like, that's it, it's done.
Pulls another grenade, throws the guy into a room with the grenade, and he pulls the pin and stuffs it in the guy's pocket, and the guy's like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!"
Yeah, which is like so stupid. Pull the grenade out.
Yeah, then he throws him into the room, and then you hear him say just calmly in the distance, "Hack the planet," and then it explodes.
Yeah, this was like his worst day ever.
Also, there's Swamp Thing throughout this entire movie has this like weird polite laughter to everything that Abby says. He's just like, and to me, all that polite laughter was saying was, "I'm a monster," because she was always so nice to him.
He sounded like a detective from a 40s movie.
That's true.
Like he was way even-toned the entire time.
Well, let's talk about this. How about the hallucinogenic sex scene that they have?
Oh my god!
You guys,
she
if you
was
didn't
like-
think there was a hallucinogenic sex scene in this movie, there is, okay?
He pulls something out of where his penis used to be.
Right.
That's true.
That looks like kind of a penis still.
Yeah, well, it's a stick anyway, and it's
It's basically a cucumber. I mean,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he bites off a piece and gives it to her, and without question, she bites off a piece. They hold hands, and then suddenly they're in some weird dream fantasy world where he's still human, and they start to have standing sex.
They're both topless but wearing Levi's, and then they're just like standing, making out, and like that weird like caressing with your face, like
Yeah.
but like no, like just rubbing her back. And
It was another one of those scenes that was like, this almost became softcore.
well, it was the
pornography.
beginning of like the softcore porn.
And then that scene ends, and she was like, "Was that real?" And then he says, "As real as you want it to be."
yuck. I said,
oh, good God.
what? Go ahead.
No, that's just it. I was just going to
What I was going to say
wonder.
is it reminded me of the terrible sex scene in Demolition Man where they put the helmets on
yeah.
and like imagine sex happening.
That's the
Except
joke.
that one of them wasn't like, the f*** is this?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, except in that movie, that was the joke. He was like, that's not sex.
Right. This movie's terrible.
Yeah.
Guys, this movie is terrible.
Well, I mean, it's not. It's terrible. Yeah, I guess you're right.
It's a pretty bad movie. There was also...
Oh, hey, Dr. Darkane plays the pipe organ like a badass.
Oh, like a total badass.
Specifically,
Well, say it. Hold on. Say it again.
the pipe organ music starts playing, and I made a joke that was like, because it's a woman about to take a shower, and then the pipe organ starts playing, and she walks away, and I was like, oh, she's like, man, turn off that damn pipe organ music, and then it switches to a scene where the guy's actually playing a pipe organ, which I didn't expect, because I really thought, and I feel like I shouldn't have. That's not something that should just happen in a movie where organ music plays out of nowhere, and it seems out of context and stupid, and you're like, oh, that's just music in the movie, because all the music in this movie was out of place and
Oh,
strange.
absolutely. Like the Creedence
flute.
Clearwater Revival in the
Yeah.
beginning.
And then there was like that
my
flute
God.
music that was a bit too
The
loud.
woodwind, yeah.
Well, the first time it was used was when Swamp Thing looked sideways at something. Like, woo! And I'm like, wait, did they just use a Western? No, it's just flute music. All right.
It was so weird and like shoehorned in for no reason.
It was.
Like 12 times.
Yes, they used it over and over. Like every time Swamp Thing would do something heroic.
Well, whenever he was done doing something heroic and walking away, then it'll be like.
I did want to say this thing just to add to the rando hallucinating sex scene.
Ooh, I referred to it as drugged sex personally.
Well, that's a whole different thing. That sounds a little rapey yourself there to say that.
Well, they were both drugged, so
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
That better? What were you saying, Brett?
What I wanted to say, so to add to the thing we had already said,
sure.
Heather Locklear it moves so quickly. She's like,
oh yeah,
she's there in the swamp. She wakes up like her neck all broken on the stump she's sleeping on, and then he like wakes her up. She's like, "This place is beautiful. I want to move in. You're my boyfriend." And he's like, "I don't think this is how it works."
Well, he's like, "Me, your boyfriend?" Like he's surprised,
followed by,
"Yeah,
I'm a monster."
Actually, followed by, "I'm a plant," and then she goes, "I love plants. I'm a vegetarian or something."
Oh, she's just like, "Don't worry, I'm a vegetarian."
Yeah.
Or something like that.
All my friends are plants.
Yeah. This chick is crazy, you guys.
Also, not a very good adaptation of Abby Arcane.
She's an actual person.
She's a character
in
the comics.
Wow.
Well, I mean, she isn't a character in the comics.
Yeah.
They just named someone after them, whatever.
Which will bring me to this Heather Locklear note. This movie has won one award, and it was a Razzie for Worst Actress, Heather Locklear. Which
Congratulations!
Is awesome. Yeah. She is so bad in this movie. Her acting is like, I said, it's like when you do your first scene in an acting class. Like where you have lines, so you're like this. "Oh, you want to go down to the store? Yeah, great. Let's do that. Let's go right away, right now. Okay, sounds good. Okay, what are you going to get? I'm going to get apples. What are you going to get? Oranges. Sounds good. Oh, don't forget the eggs. Okay, see you later."
Except she said that to her ficus Tommy.
Yeah, she's literally not even saying it to anybody. This is terrible.
And she's doing both sides of the conversation.
Well, to be fair, she was playing off of her co-star.
Yeah, that's true.
A plant called Tommy.
Which is giving her a lot of material to work with.
Oh, yes. Ficuses have the most expressions of the plant kingdom.
They do. They really have a personality.
I am so lost.
Dig me out of this hole, Ian, please.
Can't.
How about this? The Flowerfoot ending.
Oh, yeah. Swamp Thing sort of saved Heather Locklear died because of reasons, and then Swamp Thing brought her back to life. He's like, "There's going to be side effects," and she's like, "What?" And "What are they?" And he's like, "I don't know. Let's find out." And then a flower sprouts from her foot.
And then not only that, he brought her back to life with what?
Well, swamp power.
Swamp magic.
He just puts his hands on her, like her boob and her head, and then he just like glows his hands.
But he only needed to put it on her head.
Yeah. He couldn't help grab a piece when she was dead.
Don't diss the swamp magic, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Swamp magic's
well, to
real.
be absolutely fair,
what?
Dr. Arcane was trying to use mutations to create immortality.
So Swamp Thing's the immortality guy?
No, but this is my explanation of events.
Because it made no sense.
Yeah.
What about
Oh my
this?
God.
Oh.
Yes.
Brain Guy's headpiece.
Oh, Brain Guy's headpiece, floppy head.
Oh man, this one scientist that's in a few scenes who is like the scientist doorman of the mansion.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of people die off screen in this movie.
Because it's a classic like G-rated film.
Yeah, but there's like it'll be like an establishing shot of the area, and then it'll show the people, and they'll move into a different room, and the camera will stay the same. And then you hear like, "Oh no, what are you doing?" Ah!
Yeah.
and then the living person walks out.
Because, budget, and ADR is easier.
Yeah. And apparently she gave him the woman who went with the guy gave him a mutation, and he comes out later, like much later, with like a weird headpiece on that looks like a version of the aliens from Mars Attacks, but with more skin.
Yeah. Like giant headpiece. Looks like he's because he's a brainiac, he's smart, he's a doctor, so that's his mutation.
Looks kind of like... Oh, you weren't there for Green Lantern, were you?
No.
Look kind of like the guy from Green Lantern.
I do know what you're talking
guy.
about. Yeah,
Hector Hammond. Hector Hammond from Green Lantern. Kind of like that, except with less hair.
Yeah.
Gotta say.
I gotta
say.
Oh, please don't.
You can cut that out, if you will.
No, if I've got loops that you're using, that's a loop you got to use.
I have one loop.
It just sounds like you saying it anyway.
Please, you have to, and then say that's Ian's credit. Just please, somebody else get a loop.
The first time he's punched, it has to be the first time. The headpiece like folds over his eyes almost entirely.
It's almost like a shower cap that's inflated on his head.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
You know, I'm
Wobbling
gonna
around.
guess that it is a shower cap inflated on his head.
I did write down final boss fight scene sucked. Like nobody gives Swamp Thing a run for his money. They just they jump in like, oh man, this fight's gonna be epic, and he's just like throwing them around, punch.
Especially since, like, when they try and kill him early in the movie and they theoretically succeed, you know?
Right.
He shows up as sludge later and then reforms. He's clearly immortal. You cannot destroy this man unless you disintegrate him entirely.
Right.
And they're just not trying to do that. So he's never in any danger.
Right. And like no fight does he ever struggle with of like people punching him.
Like the emotional core of the movie is supposed to be him, since he's like immortal, him saving Heather Locklear, but we don't care about her because she's horrible in the movie.
She's nuts. She's crazy.
She's crazy, and she's not a great actress in the movie.
No, she's terrible.
She's insane. Although I will say she plays L.A. in the movie very well. Not listening to what anybody says.
And then after he fights that weird
Dead
Brainiac
eyes,
guy,
drug addict.
What?
after he fights the weird Brainiac mutation doctor, the self-destruct just starts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's. I had a note about that.
Well, no, I think something exploded.
Well, so
what? That doesn't trigger like sprinklers or a fire alarm?
I wasn't trying to say it was okay. I was just giving more specifics.
Self-destruct should never have an auto start.
No, absolutely
That's
not.
a bad idea.
And not only that, this is another thing I always thought about. Like going back to the secret lair with like the workers that work there. Who records the voice going self-destruct in 3 minutes?
Well, I mean, you get that, like, you just go onto Craigslist and you're like, I need a voice to say.
Oh, okay.
And it's
For
really
my
easy.
indie movie.
You don't have to pay like $25. It's totally cool. I will say, you probably shouldn't put your self-destruct as your smoke detector.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Which is probably what he did.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I saw one of my notes. When the kids are trying to take a picture of Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
The one kid has the fat ginger kid go over to the Swamp Thing to be like the fat kid for scale.
Yeah. Instead of like banana for scale or quarter for scale, it's fat ginger child for scale.
Well, fat ginger child is significantly larger than a banana or a quarter.
It's a good point, and that Swamp Thing is tall.
Yeah, and you can get different sized bananas. Although quarters tend to be one size.
To be fair, you could also get different sized fat ginger kids.
Yeah.
True.
Hey, gingers have souls, guys. Don't forget.
Well, you know,
well, red shoes do anyway.
What?
What?
Red shoes. Ginger, because you're red hair. Never mind. So.
What?
What was the.
Dylan, you just struck out there. What?
I wasn't.
You just left us behind on that one.
Oh, and the worst part is it's gonna be cut out. That's terrible. I kind of went over the good things and the bad things.
Yeah. So,
okay.
how would you fix this movie?
Oh, how would I fix this movie? I would say it needs a better defined bad guy for him to fight. That's what I think. Like he doesn't have. He has like a glass hipped old man to try to like defeat. All he has to do is like blow hard on him and he'll fall over.
Yeah, and you know, I thought there was going to be a fight there. You know,
I know,
because they were like, this man has a mutation.
That's what I thought. I thought he was going to be like,
and then the Swamp Thing throws a chair at him, and the dude collapses.
It's like a lawn chair too. It doesn't even it's not even heavy.
Well, then he just starts posing for the next 10 minutes so he can die.
He's like in a tableau, just holding his head up with his arm on the ground.
If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die beautiful. Damn it!
It's like as if someone's taking photos of him. Like a modeling.
Well, technically, someone was taking photos of it.
Okay, thanks, Ian.
Just many photos in succession, as if it were some sort of movie.
Along with audio that they weren't going to use, clearly.
I could have been fooled into thinking this entire movie was ADR.
Oh, it was. Oh, that was another fact. Was Dick Durbin? What's his name? Dick Durek? What's the Swamp Thing actor?
Dick Van Dyke. I don't care.
Okay, Dick Van Dyke.
That's not.
We all know that.
Well, not everybody knows.
So Dick Van Dyke and Jimmy, what's his name? Wynowski?
Jimmy Wickets. Jim, what? No.
Jimmy Winos.
Oh,
it doesn't matter. So Dick Van Dyke and Jimmy Wino
Wickets.
Go and watch the movie for the first time.
Jim Wynorski.
Okay, thank you. They had no idea that Dick's recording was going to be all dubbed over. So some other actor came in and did that voice in this movie. They didn't know until they saw the film. That's how bad that was.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And you know what? I watched the TV show. His voice is fine.
Oh, yeah. His voice in the first one's great. It's kind of similar to the sound of this one.
The TV show is also much better than this movie.
Yeah.
I'm a monster.
I'm a monster. So I would fix it by having like a real
just real
villain.
That's what you have.
Guys, this softcore porn stuff. Let's get some real in there. Yeah, it needed an evil guy that's strong so he could fight it. That's really what it needed. Oh, and more Go ahead.
Well, just period, I think, would be the
periods.
Ian.
Everybody's got their hand on their face.
Ian, how would you fix this movie? Get your hand off your face, you freak.
Oh, God.
I would make... Well, I just wouldn't make this movie at all, but I'd keep one thing.
Swamp Thing.
Gun.
We're
going to talk about guns training in Okinawa.
For 10 years?
For 10 years.
10 years.
You know what? He must have started training when he was like 15. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man.
He was pretty young.
He was probably...
I have a feeling,
32.
judging by his personality, he was overshooting it maybe, and he was probably on drugs for 87% of that time. So
He thought it was 10 years.
So the 10 months he spent in Boy Scout training was
I'm gonna go
actually
with like
10 years in Okinawa.
A year and a half in an Okinawan prison for drug possession. That's where I'm going with it. So it is Gun's story of hardship in an Okinawan prison, not being able to speak Japanese.
That's
and
the whole
trying
movie?
to get weed.
And not having a computer with which to hack the planet.
Exactly. And you know who comes to save him?
Who?
Zero Cool
Oh,
and
Zero Cool.
Acid Burn.
Acid. What were their names again? Zero Cool, Acid Burn. There was one other one that was so perfect.
Crash Override.
Crash Override.
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, Zero Cool and Crash Override, they're the same person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I'm sorry that I used his more
Johnny Lee Miller.
Johnny Lee Miller. They
love
were
that guy.
married or dating.
I think they were
after that movie.
I think they were dating. I think they might. They might have gotten married.
I think that was her first marriage. Was Johnny Lee Miller.
Maybe.
Then Billy Bob, which was a huge step down.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Brad Pitt, which was a giant leap up.
Yeah.
And she lost both of her boobs and got implants.
Yeah. So this got weird.
Anyways, that was our Angelina Jolie
and all of
podcast.
that happens in the Gun movie. It is
Why?
a manic piece of film.
But
He
it's,
watches a lot of stuff on TV.
it's interesting.
It's mostly him watching reality TV.
while on drugs. It's completely insane.
I'd watch
Well, he
that.
thinks he's on drugs, but they just gave him regular grass.
in an Okinawan prison.
Yes. And he can't understand them. They're like, this is just grass. And he's just like, hey, weed, all right.
Gun kind of makes me think of like it's almost like Snake Plissken's younger like brother, like someone who's like really wants to be like Snake, but just fails.
His incredibly ineffectual younger brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't mention it, but his last name is Pliskin.
I thought so.
His name is Gun
Pliskin.
Gun Pliskin.
Guys,
He was actually he was
have-
in Escape from
Cleveland.
He was in Escape from Cleveland. He was next main character. Like Snake was really trying to make him a better person for God's sake.
What he was doing was he was trying to get him off drugs the whole time in Cleveland.
Yeah, well,
That's what it was.
that's what Cleveland's for.
He
I
was
know.
trying to escape. The escape from Cleveland wasn't against like the government or anything like that. He was trying to extract his brother from Cleveland away from his money laundering drug dealers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he owed a lot of
He
money
owed
too.
a lot of money.
Yeah,
It was a
to all
real-
the wrong people. It was just a little bit after that he was arrested and sent to prison in Okinawa.
It was a real buddy film,
Yeah.
that one.
Oh yeah. So the way I would fix this movie,
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Go on,
yeah,
will you?
I would remove Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Well then,
Yeah.
that is a change.
because Man is the hero of this movie.
What?
Not like a guy named Man.
Like our guy named Gun?
Or a woman named Man. That would be more interesting. From I don't know.
Oh, interesting, you sexist
From a
bastard.
really base perspective, that's more interesting. Compared to this movie, that's more
A
interesting.
woman named Man. Her first name is Black, and she is white.
What, Ian?
Her name is Black Man. And she is a white woman.
Ian? Guys, I'm sure you've known this by now, but Ian goes on the weirdest tangents anybody
Hey.
could ever make up. Does he not? He just called a character Black Man who's a white woman.
Okay, so the way I would fix this movie.
Oh, right. Let's go back to that.
We remove Swamp Thing. And we focus more on the idea of all the creepy creatures that have been created from this. And this is also what the we want.
I was just about to butt in and try to make a little word conjoining there with creepy and creatures, and in my head, it was just creatures again.
You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Guys, remember when I was talking about Ian and his weird tangents he does? Here's another.
You're welcome.
So
They're great. Don't get me
we
wrong.
take out Swamp Thing, and we can have the whole. It's about the monsters being created and someone that's like
The Unmen.
and Abby
never
Arcane.
call them
Abby Arcane's the hero now.
Why?
Well, it's played by a different person and it's a different characterization.
So it's a whole different movie?
Well, it's not Heather Locklear.
It's not Heather Locklear, which is the biggest difference.
And there's no Swamp Thing.
There's no Swamp Thing.
It's Leather Hawklear. She's a rough and tumble lass.
Okay.
Played by a black man.
This
No,
No.
she's not.
Okay, fine. Sorry. What is happening?
can I just say what I want to say?
Leather Hawklear.
No.
Hashtag Leather Hawklear.
I'm already sweating, Ian. I don't need to laugh.
I'm sweating so much right now.
She sounds like the most badass person ever.
It's got to be like 80 degrees in here when it is so hot right now.
Anyway,
I'm not. You can hear me. Oh, boy.
can I just do my bit? Okay. The are you doing?
Guys, Ian's lost his mind.
It's the heat.
It's the heat. It gets to me.
Oh my.
But okay, so we remove Swamp Thing. Abby's the hero, and it's still a sequel, but not to Swamp Thing. This is a sequel to Attack of the Giant Leeches,
What?
the '60s movie.
I know it. What?
By Roger Corman, who is Jim Wynorski's mentor.
Really?
By the, yeah,
I didn't know that.
That's why he does B horror movies and
softcore porn.
Oh, perfect.
Well, I mean,
Because
That's not the
Roger Corman taught him to make B-horror movies, and they watched softcore porn together.
anyway, but it's a sequel to that because, and I'd still have Jim Wynorski do it because why not? It'd be
Yeah,
cheap.
absolutely.
It would be a sequel to his mentor's greatest film. This is a lie, and because the first monster you see in this movie is a leech monster.
It's really weird.
And it looks a lot better than the leech monsters in Attack of the Giant Leeches.
It's a sequel to that, and this is it's kind of a retroactive explanation to and sequel of Attack of the Giant Leeches, where we actually figure out where the giant leeches actually came from, which is Dr. Arcane's lab, and
Only he wouldn't be called Dr. Arcane because that'd be weird.
yeah,
Because
and
they're still in medical school.
Yeah, we could
at
just
that
call
time.
him Darkane. Hashtag Darkane. Shut up.
and Abby Arcane would have the same. She'd be less crazy, but she'd still want to bury the hatchet with her uncle, not uncle, stepfather.
You kind of felt like an uncle.
Yeah,
A
the
super creepy uncle.
Yeah.
Way he was holding her
Rapey
hip.
uncle.
Yeah, it's strange. And that's pretty much it. It would be about that instead.
The only thing is, that movie came out way before this movie did, though.
Yeah, you can have a belated sequel.
All right.
I mean, look at
With 80s technology?
You got nothing for that.
now. There's something.
Nope, you have nothing for this.
Nope.
There's no explanation for this. You got no.
There's been
places to go.
It's just-
oh wait, that the last Indiana Jones movie was way after the one previous to it.
Yeah, but that's a well-known thing.
A lot of people know what Brett knew what Attack of the Giant Leeches was.
Yeah, good for Brett. Why the hell did you know about that, Brett?
Mostly because of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Us too, man.
Yeah.
Great stuff. All right.
I love that episode.
Yeah.
Attack of the
Giant Leeches.
We should watch that sometime.
It's great. I love those. I have a bunch of DVDs.
on the
Oh, I
right.
should bring him sometime. I'll bring that thing so we can watch it.
We're on the right side of the wrong side of the tracks. That's one of my favorite lines from that one.
God, they have great episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's how I'd pick this movie. It'd be a sequel to Attack the Giant Leeches, and we wouldn't have Swamp Thing because he's a monster.
Monster.
Okay, so now I think we're finally to where we rate this movie on our list.
Perfect.
And
Well, Brett, where would you rate it as opposed to the last two movies we watched?
Well, I was going to say,
Mr. Minnow was on top.
Mr. Fat, I missed a bit. I missed what I missed. I missed Green Lantern. I missed Superman.
Yeah.
So I've only missed, I think, two, actually.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So I
you
can't
missed
rank it with those.
3 because Well, he actually watched Mystery Men.
I did.
That's true.
I
I
was in the
forgot about the
absentee,
absentee
yeah.
presenter thing.
Yeah, Brinloff's an asshole.
I'm glad you made it back alive.
I was lucky.
I voiced Brinloff. He died at the end.
Well,
Well,
never
he made it back to
dies.
this universe alive.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
I don't know. Obviously, Mystery Men is number 1.
Yes. Clearly.
Bottom is absolutely Catwoman for me,
I feel like, didn't we put Green Lantern even lower?
but I wasn't here for it.
It's true. I think we put Green Lantern under Catwoman, and
know.
Catwoman possibly on top of Green Lantern.
Wasn't Dave trying to get another movie under
Winky
Catwoman?
wink.
Wasn't it Batman Forever, I think, or something like or
No, I think Batman Forever, like, it had that, like, campy psychoness
Oh,
to
it's
it
great,
that
yeah.
would, like, put it above some other things.
I would say this movie is below. I would say it's above Catwoman
Yeah, it's above Catwoman.
and below whatever the next movie would be.
I don't know.
I'd say it's number 2.
Dave
worst.
has a list somewhere, but it's definitely above Catwoman. It's below. I'd say it's not not as fun to watch in that crazy way as Batman and Robin was. Yeah,
Which is
'cause-
funny because you guys put Superman as the top one
No,
of the last. Yeah, you said Superman was the best out of all of them so far.
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
Did we?
the podcast.
I don't remember. How weird.
And I was like, what? I thought Batman Forever was better, or Batman and Robin.
Well, we're gonna have to like readjust the list every week,
We really do.
Yeah.
depending.
Anyway,
I'm not even gonna finish
This
that
is like
sentence.
third or fourth from the bottom.
I think so too.
It's kind of middle of the pack.
I would say it's even lower.
Low middle.
Yeah, low middle. Yeah, I'd say 3.
Yeah.
It was
fair.
boring, this movie.
Yeah.
You know what that sound means, everyone. It's time for another edition of Absentee Presenter! That's right. It's the game show the Darkest Timeline puts on that takes a lot more time to produce than you think it does. Hosted by the Dark Lord of Chaos himself, Brinloft, the Destroyer. Let's give him a hand. Thank you, and welcome everyone to our second episode in as many weeks. Neat stuff. Today we have a returning contestant. That's right, everyone. It's David. What have you been up to since last time we saw you, David?
I was in a place between worlds and times, neither living or dead. What did you do to me?
Good to hear.
What did you do to me?
How about we give that man a tranquilizer that's not for people?
What?
That's better. Today's questions are about the 1989 film Swamp Thing 2. Now, what is your favorite part of that movie?
What I liked about Swamp Thing 2, otherwise known as The Return of Swamp Thing,
Oh, look at you, the title Nazi on tranquilizers.
was that I feel that all of the movies, or many of the movies we've watched already, owe something to The Return of Swamp Thing.
Such as Dr. Arcane, the big bad guy, felt very much like Casanova Frankenstein. Just like this kind of like flamboyant mad doctor. And the prosthetic head from the asthmatic mutant reminded me a lot of Green Lantern in his final fight against the guy with the really big head. All the bizarro, weird mutants reminded me of Guyver. And the plant-based science of Batman and Robin, all together in one movie. That's what I liked about it.
Well, okay then. So most people usually have an unwanted second answer.
And I'm going to do another one, too, just because I thought it was really awesome.
There it is.
Cab driver. In the beginning, who was driving her to the Arcane mansion. Okay. He goes to a church called the Baptist Tabernacle in Rib Shack. He doesn't even have a taxi. He has a beat-up old Volkswagen or wagon, and written in a hand on the side of the car is taxi, which I just thought was funny. He was just so jinky.
Well, your first answer was pretty original, but entirely derivative by intent, so it's worth about 3 points.
Yeah,
And the other boys didn't mention the cabbie, so that deserves a solid 5.
that's right.
So we'll average that out to about a 4.
Damn it.
That's what we like to hear. Your second question. What was your least favorite part of The Return of Swamp Thing?
The biggest thing I did not like about this movie was the guy who's a cockroach.
Oh, dear.
And he was a cockroach and they killed him. I was very glad they killed him because I was stressed out because it was a human cockroach. It was a terror.
Oh.
It was awful. I never want to watch another cockroach-based mutant science fiction comic book movie again.
David, I hear you, mate. That's just the worst. But sadly, it's not original enough to warrant full points. so I'll have to give you 3, and that's only because you're so right. Just call it a win. Your last question, David. How would you fix this movie?
How would I change it?
Or fix it, but sure.
I would take out the cockroach.
Yes! Sorry, go on.
I liked even the guy who was half elephant, half man. All the mutants were pretty cool that were in the cages, but Cockroach Man needs to die. Again.
Everyone take a look, because this man gets it. Cockroach people, gone forever. 7 points, take him, you bastard.
Woo! That's what Daddy likes.
Okay, that's not okay. So as your final tally, David, it seems like you managed to gather up 12 points.
Oh, thank God.
What do you mean by that? Did you join that betting pool? I keep telling them that they're not allowed to do that here.
But none of that matters now, Brynloft.
Of course not, never has. Everything about those points is completely arbitrary.
The points? No, I mean, because of this.
A gun. Do you even know who you're looking at?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. And that's exactly why I chose this gun.
You can't mean that's the...
But I do!
That's impossible. For a millennia, it's been in the safekeeping of
The ancient house Pliskin?
Stop cutting me off.
When I was in that ageless void for time beyond time, did you really think I wouldn't make any new friends?
Oh, so you're a friend of the Pliskins. That's not possible. They're very unpersonable people.
No, the Pliskins are no more. I made a much better friend.
Oh.
A rounder friend.
Oh, no.
One that surrounds us all in the circumference of his light.
No, it can't be.
Korriban the Round, God of Circle, Lord of the Spheres.
A petty roundy, I never should have cheated at Twister.
And now, Brynloft, these are your last moments. Before I end your life with this gun you handcrafted to kill your own brother, Mortimer, the Perpetual. All hail Korriban!
David, no, you can't be serious. I'm an important part of the Darkest Timeline canon, and this is my show. What are you going to do next time that there's another...
Absentee presenter!
Now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
And
we have to now pick a card.
yeah,
Well,
we've
well,
got to
shuffle first
Shuffle.
with Mr. Shuffle Machine.
It's a
Here we go, guys.
super hot shuffle sound.
Ooh.
I forgot to put the plastic thing back in. Idiot. Okay, so pick your card, and you will state your movie when you pick your card.
All right. I am choosing Blade Trinity.
Oh, another Ryan Reynolds movie.
Oh, yes. And I hate Ryan Reynolds, guys.
I like Ryan Reynolds.
I like him for one movie.
He is good in
He's
some
good at
things.
being Ryan Reynolds.
And I hate Ryan Reynolds.
I like Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
You didn't like Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place?
no.
You didn't like that show?
No, I like the girl in that show. I thought she was cute, though. But yeah, I hated that.
I'm also on the Ryan Reynolds train. I'm going with R.I.P.D.
Oh, that was another one I was thinking about.
Yeah, I voted for that 2 weeks in a row. Or this will be my third.
I've
Still
never
haven't
even
gotten it.
seen the comic book. Like,
Neither have we.
I don't think I've read the comic book either.
And it doesn't matter
Because it's
because the movie's terrible.
I'm sure the comic is too.
Well,
All right, what do you got?
okay. What do you?
I am going for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Why?
Turtles in Time.
was a
Because
great
we
video
can't
game.
just do we can't just do Ryan Reynolds movies, comic.
Comic Ryan Reynolds.
I could have said Wolverine Origins, but no.
I thought about that one. All right. I have Xenia on Topia. So it's like, get it? She's on Topia.
Really?
On Atopia.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Well, seriously though,
Played
come
by
on.
Famke. How do you say this girl's name? Famke Jensen.
I don't know. I can't read it right now.
She
You're
was
holding
in.
the
She was
card.
in X-Men movies. She plays. What's her name? Jan or whatever. What's the one that Wolverine falls in love with?
Jean Grey.
Jean Grey. She plays Jean Grey.
She was in a Bond movie.
Famke Jensen. Yeah, she was in
I don't remember.
Goldeneye.
She was in.
1995.
Okay, you got to show us
She's
the
also
card
in
now.
Nine of Hearts.
Let me look at it.
Famke Jensen, or however you say her name. Famke.
Man, I did not
How
recognize.
do you say that girl's name? I can't remember.
Doesn't
Well,
matter.
however you decide to read it right now.
Whatever. Nine of Hearts.
Well,
Okay, Dawn?
you're on top, Brett.
All right.
Because I got Helga Brandt,
Classic.
who played by Karen Dorr in 1967's "You Only Live Twice."
Oh, it's a good one.
It's a 4.
Uh-oh.
So
Let me see that one.
Well, I have
1967.
Electra King.
Oh, from The World Is Not Enough.
Uh-oh, this is going to be high.
Played by Sophie Marceau in
Sophie
1999. Marceau. And,
Yeah, he's happy. It's a queen.
Queen.
Yeah, I knew it. We're going to watch Turtles in Time.
Yeah, we are. I am not happy with that.
why did you pick it?
Well, because I'm not going to be happy with any movie. Why would I be happy about any of these movies?
We've watched too many movies that have stupid, snarky, like, one-liner jokes, and this is just packed full of them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Damn right.
Although I do really like the samurai theme in it, because they go back to, like, Japan, samurai times.
My God.
Yeah, it's just going to be a really hard movie for me to sit through. It's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough time. So like and subscribe.
Yeah, this has been The Darkest Timeline. If you like what you heard so far, or you want to subject your friends to something you didn't like what you heard so far, then subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play or some other things. The Darkest Timeline or DTL Podcast.
DTLPodcast.com, at DTLPodcast, hashtag DTLPodcast. We got really that base covered there.
Yeah, just detail podcast, anything.
Give us a shout. Could be fun.
If you give us a shout, we'll give you a shout on the podcast.
If we actually see your tweet before we do the podcast.
Yeah.
And if your tweet is relevant in any way.
No, just a tweet. I don't care. Even if it just says that you went grocery shopping today. I'll take it.
Just throw hashtag DTL podcast on every tweet you do, and we'll quote each one by the letter. That's not happening. We're not doing that.
Oh, we should. We really should.
You've said it now. Yeah.
Well, no, I also said we're not doing it. I had my fingers crossed the whole time. See? You can't say I was wrong.
Nobody can see. We're on a podcast.
I know. Well, hey, dude, audio.
Well, see you next time when we watch Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time.
Hurrah!
Yeah.